you're watching the Top 6 Show, the original multi-club fan channel. Make sure you're following us now on Spotify and Apple Podcast. The link is in the description below. And back to the Top 6 Show. Lots to talk about tonight with Chelsea agreeing a new deal for a new goalkeeper. And they've done it with Brighton. They've done it with Brighton for Sanchez. We're talking about that and the Moises Caicedo deal on this show. We're looking at Liverpool's desperate need for a new midfielder. Will the third bid for Lavia be accepted with the Premier League just over 7 days away? We're taking a stop at Tottenham with their pursuit of Micky van der Ven, and Arsenal. How much do they need a new striker? According to some top journalists, Kudus to Arsenal is there for the taking. Could that deal be close now the injury has been confirmed? We're delving into that. Plus, any questions that you've got, any thoughts that you have, any subjects you want us to talk about, let us know. Please hit like buttons, subscribe, and please make sure that you have the bell notifications turned on as well. My panel tonight, we've got Gav representing Arsenal. We are going to be joined by Kieran as well, who's a Gooner very, very soon. He's running a little bit late. We've got Tom Little in new surroundings. He must be at home at the parents' house and not in his dorm at university, as we can see there. Don is with us again, representing Chelsea. And, of course, George is here back in his his Spurs, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely getting that right, Terry.
Sorry. Terry is getting confused because they're calling you Levi Colwill in the comments.
That's better than the pound shop Drake. Actually, it's or the Tesco's. I like Tesco's.
I hear it.
I like it. Where to start? I actually want to start with a little bit of Chelsea. I want to start with Chelsea because you've just gone and signed Sanchez in goal. I'm seeing foul comps galore from Chelsea fans. There doesn't seem to be a good reception for this £20 million deal for this new goalkeeper. Thoughts on it, Don?
It's underwhelming, and I think the reason why we're quite underwhelmed is we were linked early to Onana, and then we walked away because apparently we just didn't have the budget to pay for Onana, which I didn't understand. Because how much did you pay for him in the end, Terry? Onana?
42 million.
42 million. So that, to me, that's peanuts in today's market for a keeper who's going to basically elevate your team. We walked away from that.
You walked away because he said no to you. That's not a dig. That's just why clubs walk away typically. Yeah. Yeah,
but what was coming out at the time is that we didn't have the budget for him or Maignan. That's what was coming out at the time. We had no keeper budget. And everything that was coming out was that what do you call it? Poch and his team.
Called club talk. You know when you just have to reverse that when a player rejects you, it's no, we don't have the money.
Yeah, you were the ones who didn't get rejected.
I can't lie. The only
goal of a Chelsea camp, don't it?
Listen, the only goalkeeper that I remember seeing rejected us was Maignan. Apparently he didn't want the move to Chelsea. I didn't see anything but Onana. I could be wrong, but I didn't see anything but Onana rejecting us. But I do remember Maignan rejected us. But again, going back to that, we walked away from that. It was coming out at the time that Poch and his team think they can get something out of Kepa. But I think in pre-season, they've probably seen that this guy's just not good enough. Do you know what I mean? With Sanchez, to me, he's underwhelming. You know, ideally, I wanted a keeper like a Onana or a Maignan, for example. But, you know, we got rid of Mendy and Solina's been sent out on loan as well. He's going to get sent out on loan. I watched him last week on Sunday and he just doesn't look ready for first-team football, in all honesty. So we had to go in and bring someone in to, you know, compete with Kepa. Again, Sanchez for me is underwhelming. He is a good shot stopper. I think he's better with the ball at his feet than Kepa, in all honesty. But I still want us to go big in the summer and hopefully go in for Maignan again if we get back into the Champions League. So yeah, that's how I kind of look at it right now. It is where it is. I'm kind of looking at it like a stopgap, and hopefully if that means that it speeds things up a little bit with Caicedo, then of course that's great news. And another thing as well is that one of the guys that used to work at Brighton, Ben Roberts, he was the goalkeeping coach at Brighton. He apparently is the guy that brought through Sanchez. So I think he's done a lot of work in trying to bring him back to like working with him, because obviously he's at Chelsea now. So I think he's been pushing for it quite a bit, and hopefully he can get something out of him, because I can't deal with another season of Kepa. I cannot deal with another season of Kepa. I don't mind Sanchez going and goal for a season, but I just can't deal with Kepa for another season. Do you know what I mean? But honestly, I'm underwhelmed by it. I think people are overreacting a little bit, only because we expected a little bit something more glamorous than Sanchez. But yeah, hopefully it's just for a season and we go big again next season. But Kepa, for me, nah. I've had enough. I've
I'm
had
just
enough of it.
confused about why you've settled for Sanchez. Like, I,
Mm.
albeit I didn't watch as much of him last season, but that was because he got dropped for Jason Steele, who before he started playing for Brighton was best known for being the crap keeper on Sunderland till I die when they got relegated to League One. So I don't get how Chelsea, who you just kicked the can down the road, but you've not even addressed the issue properly, because I still see Kepa being the starter. Like, Robert Sanchez last season was just incredibly error prone. A lot of Brighton fans were happy to see the back of him, and I think that's very telling because of their hatred for your football club at the minute. Because you see trying to take everyone. If they're happy to give someone to you, I think that has to be a bit of a negative sign. I remember last season when in the derby, you know, Brighton Crystal Palace, was it last season or the season before, whatever one it was, he made an absolute howler that gifted Crystal Palace a goal by failing to high cross. You know, the fact that he was dropped, whether it was a relationship with the Zerbi or whatever, the stone cold matter of fact is Chelsea have just spent 20 million guaranteed on Brighton's third choice goalkeeper.
You're right. You're right.
I think that's harsh. I do think that's harsh, Tom, because if we're being honest, he was their first choice goalkeeper only up until last season. He was one of their...
So he was their first choice goalkeeper when they were back, when they weren't as good as they are.
But look at how they played, though.
Let's not really say when they're not as good as they were, because people were still raving on about Brighton when Graham Potter was there.
They were raving on about Brighton, but they were never...
He was very good under... He was very good under Graham Potter.
They were a team. They were a good defensive team. We all used to know they used to fail at the other end of the pitch, and that's what they were praised for. He was a good goalkeeper, a very good shot stopper for Brighton during a period that they had a strong defensive line. I would just agree with you in saying that, yeah, it is a bit underwhelming that they are eventually going to have to sign a new goalkeeper again within the next, if not next season, the season after that, because unless Sanchez improves quite a bit, I don't see him taking you guys to the promised land. He's not the first choice goalkeeper that you would ideally want, but then again, he's not a bad player. I do think that, like you say, he can compete with Kepa. I do think he's better than Kepa. I think he's a player that will be able to take Kepa's spot, but like Tom has mentioned, the Brighton fans want him out because he does have mistakes in him. He's still young, though. Yeah. I still think he's got potential. I personally...
That's the thing. That's the thing.
I want to say, Don, there's a comment here that says that Onana's overrated anyway. Love that, by the way, my friend. But look, I look at it this way. I think you did want Onana, and I think he had his mind set on Man United very much in the same way Amrabat does, the Ten Hag connection. So I think you walked away. Magic Mike said no. How many goalies are genuinely out there in the market right now that in Europe that are of their level? In my opinion, there's none that are available. Yeah. So you're better off keeping Kepa and buying a goalie like a Sanchez, and then, as you say, maybe waiting until next summer before you make that move, as opposed to spending £50 million on a goalie that isn't as good as your actual target. So I think there's a bit of just a slight overreaction. Does that
definitely
make sense?
That's what it is.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
There's the goal.
I
think there's a goalkeeper that no one's spoken about, though, and I'm surprised that no one's spoken about it, and especially since the World Cup as well. And that's the Croatian goalkeeper, Livkovic. What a goalkeeper! You know, very good at shot stopping, very good with the ball at his feet, and you'll probably be able to get him for peanuts. I don't understand why his name has not been mentioned by any major club, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think Sanchez is more of a stopgap. Again, for me, he's not someone that I had on my list when I was looking at goalkeepers like this window. But in terms of actually making sense of it, the only thing that I can say is the fact that, like I said, Ben Roberts, who's our goalkeeping coach, has worked closely with Sanchez before. And I believe he got the best out of Sanchez during his time at Brighton under Graham Potter. Because when Graham Potter was there, Sanchez was good. Do you know what I mean? He's a good shot stopper. The ball at his feet, again, I think for me, he's better than Kepa with his ball at his feet. Not to say that I'm overrating this guy, but I just think that he's just good enough to do a job. Do you know what I mean? But ideally, I would like for us to upgrade on both of them next summer. Hopefully, go big on like a Manian, for example, like I said. But yeah, if it acts like a bit of a sweetener to get the Caicedo deal sorted out, which is what Fabrizio's been kind of saying, like on YouTube recently about, you know, we could potentially use that to bring the fee down for Caicedo. Then so be it, because he's not the worst keeper in the world. It's not like we're going in for De Gea right now. Do you know what I mean? We're going in for someone who De Zerbi doesn't like. Let's be real about it. De Zerbi just doesn't fancy him, but it doesn't mean it's completely rubbed. So for me, I think there's a little bit of an overreaction. But ideally, I would have liked someone better than him.
I get you on that. Staying with Chelsea, there's actually a super chatting question for Tom. It says, Tom, does Colwill still want to join Liverpool?
I mean, I wish he did. He obviously doesn't. I'd just like it if my club had decided to not commit the entire thing on getting him. Because now we've been bitten in the arse and we've got no centre-back, despite it being a pressing issue. But Chelsea, the fact that Chelsea managed to tie him down to, is it a 6-year contract for Colwill now?
Yep.
That's really good business. Levi Colwill is an incredible defender. I'm gutted we missed out on him.
I hope Colwill was smart enough to have kind of some kind of clause in there to say that in the next couple of years, if Chelsea are not doing nothing, he can leave for a fee, because it is brilliant business. I think Levi Colwill is a brilliant defender. He's going to be England's best centre back for years to come. But right now in this Chelsea project, it's at this weird crossroads where we don't know how it's going to pan out. And if someone as talented as Colwill, who wants to go and win trophies, if you're stuck in this place like Chelsea, who hasn't kicked on, that 6 years does not look like a great deal for him personally, you know. So we don't want to. He doesn't want to be a Harry Kane situation. And this is not me saying Chelsea are not going to win trophies. I'm just saying that right now, as a player, you've got to think about these things going forward, because it's such an interesting position that Chelsea are in. It literally can just go either way. And a player of his caliber, it's not easy to get out, because they're not going to be willing for him to let him go for anything less than 80 million easy.
The thing is, Chelsea have such high standards. I can't see them going. The way you described it is they could potentially go down a route where they're not winning trophies and not do anything. He could be at the wrong club. But that's not Chelsea. That's not their blueprint. If it's not working, they change managers and then change suit. It's not the way they're going. So I don't see him. I don't see the risk on his side, only that if he wants to leave because he's not getting game time. The risk is probably more with Chelsea, because they've got players on 6 and 8 year contracts. So if they get injured, they're stuck with them for however long, no matter what the injury is. I think
you're all thinking of Roman's Chelsea. Like that Roman Chelsea, yeah, I understand, but like this is Bowley's Chelsea, and they've not proven.
Well, let's be real here.
I get KJ. I get what you're saying.
Even
I
on
get
that,
what you're.
though, yeah, look. Since the last window, how many young players have they signed, and how many of them have they even looked at potentially progressing into the first team? It doesn't look like much. A lot of these players, they're still doing what the old Chelsea used to do. They used to pack out the squad of lots of these talents that have the top talents around Europe, and then they just fling them out on loan. All these different. Look at Fofana. He's off out on loan, ain't he? So we're just seeing again, like this is the same old Chelsea doing the same old things. And like Kieran just said there, the only fear for me is that Chelsea are going to get a player and they're going to be forced to keep him, or it's going to be that Colwill isn't going to be getting game time because Chelsea, as we know, big club, they're going to end up going, oh, do you know what? Colwill, he's not performing to the level we need him. We're going to sign a big world-class centre-back to come replace him. And then he's going to be struggling for game time.
So one thing I would say, though, is how many of Chelsea's youngsters have left and been top class elsewhere? Who are those individuals?
Tamori, you've got Tammy.
Again,
when you say top class, what do you mean? What do you mean by top class?
So top class, I mean, good enough to lead Chelsea to Premier League and Champions League. For me, the answer is
okay.
You might say Tamori, but I'm still not convinced. Tammy Abraham, absolutely not. The point is, if Colwell's good enough, he'll be in the Chelsea first team. If he's getting replaced in 2 years by another centre-back, it's because he wasn't good enough. At the end of the day,
they tried to sign him back. Nathan Ake, he started off in the Chelsea.
No, I understand that. I understand that. But as a general rule, if you add up all the Chelsea academy players and young signings they've made, if you add them all together and work out how many have left and actually gone on to do crazy good things, you could probably look at KDB. Is probably the most famous example. But generally, the ones that leave are because they're not good enough. As a general rule, it's because they're not good enough. KDB is probably the only one that you'd look at and go, that was a big mistake from them. And all of our clubs have those players that you look back and go, a mistake. But the vast majority of our kids that our clubs let go never amount to much. after they leave, to be absolutely honest. So I don't really think that should be too much of a concern based on
Yeah,
the probability
Yeah,
of it going wrong. You know?
Musiala's been mentioned in
I
the
get
comments as well, which is true. Musiala is
I,
also
I
a Chelsea product.
Musiala, yeah,
that's
Musiala.
mentioned.
He moved on quite early, but again, he was given that trust from like what, 17.
Yeah, again, but he didn't even make a first. Did he even make a first team appearance?
Nah, he didn't. He didn't.
Yeah,
I
so
don't
he's
think he even went on tour with us.
He's an academy player. So that's my point. I'm talking about someone that's been given 2 or 3 years in the first team and then been replaced. How many of those players, barring KDB, have killed it elsewhere? The answer is probably none. And Mo Salah wasn't an academy player, so he doesn't count.
Yeah.
No, but sorry, just quickly. But equally to jump in there, you've got to take into account the time they was at Chelsea and the development that's been stunted. Because people like Chuck Wimmer, it's gone to Chelsea. He was playing week in, week out at Aston Villa.
No, he wasn't.
He's breaking into Aston Villa, like Ramsey, and all of a sudden he goes to Chelsea, and where is he? He's not played in 2 seasons. So was that the right move for him? Has his development progressed? Has his development progressed since he's gone to Chelsea? How many games has he played? Would he have played more at Aston Villa? The answer is yes, 100%.
Yo,
go for it.
I agree with you, bro. I agree with you. Like when we bought Carney last summer, you know, every week us Chelsea fans were screaming, "Why is Potter not playing this guy?" Again, it went to Lampard. Why is Lampard not playing this man? We agree with you, bro. He should have been getting more game time, but Poch has been using him quite a lot this preseason. I expect him to stay. He's been playing really well, and I expect him to get a lot more game time. We all know, Jules, you know that how much Poch loves young players, and Carney looks like someone who can hold his own. Do you know what I mean? So I expect him to get a lot more game time this season, but I wouldn't judge him. I wouldn't judge Chelsea based off last season because we had a bunch of clowns managing the club. Do you know what I mean? A bunch of clowns that kept playing Gallagher and players like that. So I do agree with you. I was screaming Carney should be getting played last season, but he just wasn't being played. But Potter didn't
what about
fancy.
even right now? Like you're signing these players. Like I think who is it? You signed you've signed Alexi Desai. Is it Desasi?
Desasi, Axel Desasi. Yeah.
So you signed. Is it Lubeka? Like you're signing these players that, if we're being honest.
No, that French player, new French player you've just bought.
Oh, the CDM. But Jules, let me go back to the beginning because Jules, I know you said how like under Roman we used to buy a lot of players and then like loan them out. But when Todd Bowley came in, the first thing that he said is that we're going to be looking at gems from all over the world. Some of them will make it and some of them won't. But what we're looking to do is not just sign anyone. We're looking to sign the top talent so we can actually move them on and keep money coming in. So unfortunately, as much as I love everyone to be able to make it at Chelsea, it's not going to be possible, bro. But if we can make a flip on these players before they become 100 million players, it's part of the model as it is right now. I do get it. You know, there's a lot of players, even like the other week when we signed the CDM, I was thinking, bloody hell, like another one. Like how many more young talents do you want to keep buying? But the plan from the beginning has always been to buy these young talents and move them on if they don't make it at Chelsea. Yeah. But rather than keep loaning them, we're looking to sell them for a good fee. And there are going to be some of them that make it through. Do you know what I mean? Angelo Gabriel, potentially he could stay. Andre Santos, he's another one that could stay. So some of them, like I said, will make it and others will get moved on. That's just part of the business.
I typically think if you're good enough, you make it. There'll be exceptions that prove that rule. Like KJ and me fought for 2.5, 3 years on here. Kept on telling me Ethan Laird. Where's he just moved to? Bayern Munich ain't bought him. City ain't bought him. And I don't even mean it in a horrible way to these young lads. Just they're not all going to do it. Another bit of news around Chelsea I wanted to get opinions on. It's been on Sky Sports this afternoon. Brighton don't believe anybody's going to match their £100 million valuation. I see you shaking your head there, Kieran. By the way, welcome back to the show in the Terrace, mate. Do you think this deal's going to get done? Or do you feel Brighton are taking the proverbial? Do you think Chelsea just need to pay up? What's your thoughts on it, mate?
Yeah. I don't think the player's not worth 100 million, but it's what the club want for him. It's the same as Declan Rice situation. He's not a £100 million player, but if that's what the club value him at, and that's how much you want him, then you've got to pay the money. Brighton are well renowned for holding strong, holding tight on their valuations. They did with Ben White. They have with multiple other players, and I don't see him flexing on this. Whether Chelsea will pay the money, I don't know. But if they're really set on there's no other alternative to Caicedo, then they've got to pay that 100 million.
Yeah.
I still don't think we're going to pay the 100 million. I'm going to keep saying this. Even before this whole thing happened with Sanchez, I was still saying it, Terry. How many times I've been on it and I said I don't think we're going to pay the 100 million. And honestly, I think with this Sanchez deal, the fact that they wanted to get rid of him, if Chelsea are smart, they'll be using that in negotiations to hopefully bring that fee down. They're two separate deals. Do you know what I mean? But the fact, like I said, we've taken someone who might be a bit of a toxic sort of someone toxic in their changing room right now. I think it might help us. It could potentially help us. So I don't think we're going to pay 100 million. I still think it's going to be around 85, maybe 90 max. But I think Brighton are just trying their luck. I still don't think we're going to pay the 100 million. Do you know what I mean? I still think we're going to get it. I don't think we're going to pay 100.
That Brighton are geniuses for the way they've handled the saga, because they managed to get him to sign a new contract, which has locked him in and has done him in more than anyone. We knew Caicedo wanted to leave in January. So whoever his agents are, whoever's advising him, has made a major mistake in making him sign that contract without a release clause, or without a clause that managed to get him out of that football club. Ultimately, Brighton have no need to sell him. There's no need, there's no desire to sell him at the minute, because yes, they get £100 million, but it's not like they're in desperate need of the money. I mean, you're just giving them 20 million quid for Robert Sanchez. They got 35 off us.
No, I agree. And unlike Kane and Mount and some of these other deals, the contract ain't running down. So they're still going to have 3.5 to 4 years left come next summer.
2028 now.
I don't think Caicedo is also going to. I don't think Caicedo is going to turn poisonous either. He's got that pay increase. He signed that deal for a reason. I know that he's a team like we don't think we're worth more than £80 million, but there's been no sign that he's going to go on strike or put in a request or that he isn't training hard.
He can't. He can't because he's a donut. He's a donut for signing that contract. So right now, it doesn't matter what he does. Like Tom said, he signed that contract, which is long term now. It's a problem. It's a big problem for him. So, last week it was reported that his team flew out to America. They met up with Brighton representatives to have a conversation with them to try and lower the fee for Caicedo. But right now, I don't blame Brighton for doing what they're doing, because end of the day, he's under contract. He's their player. They don't have to sell him. Like I said, they're holding that strong ground. They're holding all the cards. But like I said, we're going to try every negotiation tactic right now. And Sanchez, we're going to use that to try bring that fee down, because we've taken him off their money. Do you know what I mean?
I think the Declan Rice move has done Chelsea in, because like we just said, Caicedo's tied down for a long-term contract. Declan Rice would cost £105 million with 1 year remain. It might be in two, but was it 1 year plus an option, like something like that on his contract?
Yeah.
Brighton Football Club have 5 years on Moises Caicedo's contract. We all know that having that time on your contract pushes the value up. Brighton could easily sit there and ask for more, because as good as Declan Rice is, based off of last season, Moises Caicedo wasn't far behind. And there's a lot more value in terms of his contract length and in terms of the wages and everything regarding Moises Caicedo in Brighton's eyes. So I could really see Caicedo spending another year at the Amex, because there's no reason for Brighton to sell. And if it gets to next summer, all of a sudden, they might be in an even stronger position, because Caicedo becomes the primary best DM almost on the market, or the best option on the market.
To flip it the other way, Tom. To flip it the other way, it's just a quick one, KJ. To flip it the other way, like I know, again, like you said, Brighton don't have to sell right now because he's under contract. But when you look at the situation that we're in right now, and you look at our lack of options in midfield, bro, we've only got Santos. That's literally our only CDM. Do you know what I mean? We lost out on Ugarte quite early in the window, because the narrative at the beginning was Ugarte and Caicedo. We've lost out on him already. We literally only have Santos. So it's far gone now. Do you know what I mean? We've done everything on the player side to make sure that he's keen on the move. Everything that's coming out is that Caicedo is still pushing for Chelsea. You've done even the other week. Even the other week. No, let me finish the point. Let me finish the point. What I'm saying, that the reason why we're not going to walk away. I know what Tom's saying in terms of Brighton. Ideally, they could keep him till next season. But what I'm saying is Chelsea aren't going to walk away from this deal. He's our main target. And like I said, we've literally only got Santos. He's our only CDM option. We're not going to go into the season without Caicedo. It's going
to be interesting, guys. I want to go to some of these super chats here and get the viewers involved. The Flo here says, Don, you seem like a top guy, but I think it's time to stop taking so much copium, my man, is what Flo says
copium?
to you. It
What
says to you
copium?
here.
Expand on that, bro.
LJ Brown says that there's more likely that George winning a Aaron Lennon lookalike contest than Brighton getting 100 million for Caicedo, and the guys who is the unnamed club. And I want to ask you, who do you think is the unnamed club that has bid, or is it a case of Brighton negotiating in public? Nobody bid. Does anyone think there's an actual club that's bid more than 80 million?
Nah.
No, there's no club that's putting
All
on
I'm saying
lately,
is,
Caicedo.
all I'm saying is, Enia Luca was right in it. Enia Luca's settings, bro. They just called up one of them and them and was like, "Yo, fam, just put in the cheeky bid just to see if Chelsea buy in it. We won't name you or anything like that. Just do that." Yeah, it ain't happening, man. There was no unnamed club, bro. You know what I'm saying?
And that just goes to show me that obviously Brighton are trying to get us to pay up. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's not copium. It's
like, there's a funny comment here that says the Chelsea guy reminds me of Clarence from 8 Mile.
Clarence.
Anthony Mackie, bro. You know what I'm
Really
saying?
Don't be too old for that. You've got to know who he is. Papa Doc.
I haven't watched that film in ages. I might have to. That film was
Anthony Mackie.
I still know that final chat as well. I still know it off by heart.
That was ridiculously good. The mystery club was Brighton, is what Dan Waters says here. Big super chat here. Thank you for the donation. Says let Caicedo stay at Brighton and gain European experience, which he lacks. He could get better or may come out to be a fraud, struggling to play both league and European football. Brighton are in a good position with him.
But Terry, no one is disputing this. But I'm speaking about it from Chelsea's point of view. We need Caicedo and he's our main target. So we're not going to walk away.
I think the problem is that you're speaking about it like you're coming from a position of power where you aren't, because like we've all highlighted, Brighton have every right to do, and they can keep him this year. Let's just say they keep him this year and he doesn't have an amazing season next year. They can still sell him on for 65, 70 odd million. They're not losing much of the value of what you guys are potentially putting out there at the moment. So when they decide, let me stick to 100 million or go, they know that, look, you guys want them since January. You clearly have no other targets in the market because there's been no other news about Chelsea speaking to other CDMs. So Brighton know all their eggs are in this basket. If they really want this player, and they've been talking to Caicedo like they have been all this time, telling him, look, we're going to make sure you're a Chelsea player. They're gonna pay the money. They're gonna pay the extra 15 million.
I'm telling you now, just for the future of Chelsea, you need to walk away from this deal, because if you get hold to rank. No. Listen. It's not about Caicedo, the player. It's about your position and stature as a football club. If you get held to ransom for another player again, clubs around the world are just not going to take you seriously. As a Man United fan, I know this. We can't go to anyone's door without getting extra 20 million put on top because they can, and we will just pay it. You don't want that. We've seen many times smaller clubs doing this to teams, and if you want to balance out the equilibrium and get it back to where bigger teams have more power and stuff, bigger teams need to walk away from these deals. We've seen it with Wolves. Wolves had 60 million pounds at their door for Adama Traore. They said no. Now man left on a free and doing nothing with his life. That needs to happen more. It needs to happen more. Big clubs like yourself.
The thing is, this is what I'm saying, KJ. I've said it numerous times already. Chelsea do not have the control right now. It's all Brighton. Brighton hold all the cards. But like I said,
you're allowing them, because Chelsea are allowing them to have the cards. If you guys can say no, and you just go out and buy it.
But this is the problem. This is why we shouldn't have left it as long as we did. So we've got a part to play in this as well, because obviously Tony Bloom.
If you're going to walk away, you've got to do what Man United did with Kane in the second week of the window. Was right. We're going to move on to pastures new. We still tried to get striped up, and it took us like nearly 6 weeks to get the price down by 20 million. But yeah, no, I hear you. This super chat here says, I love the show. Keep it up. Always a great panel, all different ideas and different characters. Also, Chelsea is a crap soulless club. Hope either Liverpool or Arsenal win the league. Big up is what Jag says here. Thank you for the super chat, bro. Speaking of midfielders, there's a sort of big reports going around that Amrabat is very, very close to his deal now with Man United. We know about this deal. we're not going to delve into the specifics of it. It feels very much like the club are essentially waiting to sell a few players and then they'll trigger this one into life. It looks like Amrabat wants to be a Manchester United player. But a comment came in here and I want to point this out. I want to get the viewers watching at home as well involved. Also hit like buttons, by the way, people. Get that smash right now. Amrabat, Mount, Casemiro, Bruno. It says Eric Ten Hag is putting together the least press-resistant midfield in Premier League history. It's Amrabat not press resistant. I don't know. I want to put that out to the panel. What are we saying? Is it the worst team in terms of holding on to the ball in Premier League history?
I don't know what this comment's about. It seems a bit biased in my eyes. From the signing of Mount, who I think is totally underrated as a player. There's so much talk about him being mid, which I just don't get. He's an honest player. You get your goals, get you assists. He's a decent player to put in the team. Saw what Casemiro did last season. Bruno, he has his moments, but he's shown that he's been an absolutely outstanding signing for Man United. And bringing in a player like Amrabat would be a class signing to add to that midfield as well. So, yeah, I've got nothing bad to say about that midfield there at all.
I think this is just a case of everyone in this new trend of their midfielders have to do X, Y, and Z. So right now, their midfielders basically just need to be Frankie de Jong. If they're not Frankie de Jong, they're going to be upset. Like, those midfielders there, are they silky Frankie de Jong from resisting the press? No. But can they actually shield the ball, turn, and get the ball off to where it needs to be? Yes. Yes, they can. So we don't need all of our players to be highly, highly press resistant, because all players get caught up in the press at some point in their careers and in the season. It's going to happen. So people saying that, it's the least press resistant, bruv, it's not that deep.
It comes down to how you're going to play.
We'll play a way of football that suits their strengths. It may not. If someone presses us, guess what? Onana, just ping the ball back to Onana or Martinez, and they'll find a way through. It's not all about the midfielders doing everything for the team. Like, I don't see what this is.
Funny enough, I think
style of play though, doesn't it? Like, when we were successful, I'll tell you right now for a fact, only Gini Wijnaldum was really press resistance in our midfield, and he still got caught. But it didn't matter because we didn't use our midfield for the reason of retaining the ball. Manchester United, for me, are going to use their midfield in terms of get it as quickly as you can to the creative players so they can try and do something with it. That doesn't involve I need Casemiro to start dictating the tempo, and then my left DM to start dictating the tempo, and then I'll have Wan-Bissaka inverting in, so we've got another option so you can start controlling it. No, United have accepted the fact that we're going to play a little bit more of a direct style in our midfield, and they're buying players to suit that.
Have you just revealed something, Tom?
No, I was speaking from a United point of view.
I know.
But yeah, no. Funny enough, I do think Amrabat will be. Funny enough, I think he'll be the best midfielder on the ball. Do you know what I mean? I don't rate Bruno on the ball. I don't rate Casemiro on the ball. Definitely don't rate Mason on the ball. Let me
slow you down though, because I get when you say don't rate Bruno on the ball. So he's one of the highest chance creators in world football 5 years running. What is it about his ability on the ball you don't like?
I don't think he's as press resistant as what I would like for a midfielder in that position, in all honesty. I do think he creates chances. I think he's able to make good decisions here and there. That's one thing about Bruno. It's quite inconsistent. Once, he tries to make chances, which is good. But in terms of actually being press resistant, I don't think he's that press resistant, in all honesty. I think Amrabat would be the most press resistant midfielder in your midfield. But again, it goes back to Tom. If you utilize them in different ways, like Liverpool did a couple of years ago, then it could work. So yeah, it depends on how you want to play. But for me, Bruno, I don't look at him and think, that's a press resistant midfielder. I think it's just okay.
But Bruno rarely plays central midfield. He plays the 10. 10's being press resistant. I've never heard anybody really worry about that. He gets dispossessed and loses possession similar amounts to KDB. So whether people think he's sloppy, not technically good, it's similar. In terms of Casemiro, look, he can have a wayward pass or two. But Casemiro, in terms of getting dispossessed in possession, that isn't what happens to him. When you challenge him for the ball, his strength and ability to roll out of the way is brilliant. And so is Amrabat. Amrabat and Casemiro together are exceedingly press resistant. I actually don't quite understand where the notion that they're not is coming from. Trust me, send your teams out.
This notion of
Amrabat in the middle and try and press them off the ball, try and muscle them off the ball. and see what happens to you. You're going to get slapped. You're going to get a dry slap.
I don't
know why
think.
press resistance has suddenly become this big thing as well. Like it's the
I was
be all
just
end all
about
for
to say,
midfielder.
yeah.
Because I told you that people just want Frankie de Jong clones. They want people who can turn, spin. They want people to look like Busquets and Xavi. Like, not every footballer is like that. It's a very aesthetically pleasing thing that a lot of eye test merchants want in their footballers. But yet, when you're losing, all those spins and turns mean nothing, then it if you physically can't keep up with the pace of the game. So
I don't think
See,
Ten
AJ,
Hag Ten Hag's putting together a team that is plays that style of play, is quick passing, pass and move. That's the team he's put together. If you had Fred and McTominay in that midfield, then you could say these two aren't press resistant. As soon as anyone gets near McTominay on the ball, he's looking for that sideways ball. He's not got that pass through the players. He's not that type of player. But when you're talking about this squad that he's putting together now, they can play football. Like, I think it's just another one of these key words that people just throwing around, press resistant, and like you can see it. If you're watching these teams, you can see how they play. A Ten Hag keep is set up to keep that ball ticking over. It's not.
I mean,
really
look at this
pressed.
comment here. Amrabat is terrible at holding the ball and isn't technically enough.
I don't know what you've been watching, bro.
No, he's
I don't
right.
know what you've been
but he's
watching.
No. He's right. He's talking about Amrabat that was at Watford, though. That's the problem. He isn't speaking about Fiorentina's Amrabat. And then you get the comments like this, twisted bubba. And this is the thing. Why not want the best? The problem that you have is this. I want the best number 9 in the world at Man United. But Haaland is never joining Man United from Man City. So you can forget about it. If you think about the Frankie de Jong, Barcelona not selling him. Rodri, you think Twisted Bubba, I love you as a member. You think Rodri's being sold to Man United? Like, deep it for a second. You think Arsenal, right? What we'll do, right? We'll phone up Arsenal and we'll buy Partey and Rice right now. Like, yes, you want the best, but they have to be attainable. And if the best isn't attainable, you have to look for a different way to skin a cat. There's literally, if you think about players like Haaland, there's 2 of them in the world. You can maybe count 3 with Kane, but he's older. There's Mbappe and there's Haaland. Only 2 clubs can have them. Everybody else underneath that as a striker is quote unquote substandard compared to those 2. But you can't all have a striker of that level. So you have to look for different ways to skin a cat. And I just think fans have got to get their head out the clouds and start to realize that. And to answer it again, that midfield, in my opinion, is very pressure resistant. I'm sure we'll be okay in this.
Could I just add to that comment? Sorry, Terry. Just to add to that. Like, again, we get stuck on this, the best. Like, players need to sign the right player for your club. When we talk about the best, it's so subjective. Who's the best? Are we talking about the best in the world? Are we talking about the best in the Premier League? Because I don't want to say it because I'm sounding like an old boy, but Ferguson used to buy the best in the Premier League. So in my eyes, he would have gone out and bought Harry Kane a few seasons ago. He would have bought the best midfielder a couple of seasons ago from the league that they know they can do it in. So this notion of the best, it's like the best from what? It's got to be the right player that suits your system. It's got to be the right player that suits your team. And there's so many different nuances as to what actually fits in your team. You can't just go the best because, like you said, 1, they're not available, and 2, do they even work in your system?
Also, how quickly do people, like, how many times has someone come into the Premier League and then suddenly become one of the best players in the league within 2 years and being thought of at that level as, like, wow, okay, they're at that top level, even though when they first arrived, no one was sitting there going, they're at that top level, they're going to be sitting at that top table. It doesn't happen. Sometimes you get the right environments and it unlocks you. This is why we enjoy it. And the thing is with Amrabat and Casemiro, the different types of DMs that, like, I don't think United would want another Casemiro because you've got Casemiro. You'd want someone who offers something different to either complement or offer something different to Casemiro in case he needs to.
You're right, Tom, because they wouldn't go in for like a Paulinho. Because again, Paulinho
it does make sense to do that because
for example.
When you replace a player with a direct copy who is worse, you're just lowering your overall quality.
No, I agree. But even with the thing pressure resistance and being a word, so gunning you down, as now said, is Amrabat good at dribbling from the back whilst being pressed? So now you're not talking about pressure resistance. Now you're talking about dribbling ability. So now we're judging central midfielders on the dribbling ability as being one of their main attributes. Now he's okay at driving with the ball, but is he going to be Eden Hazard No, like that isn't going to happen. But how many midfielders are? This is the thing that isn't. Again, I wouldn't consider that what being pressure resistant is. Pressure resistant to me is when you are stationary with the ball and you're being pressed and hurried. Do you have the ability to think quickly, move the ball quickly, or drop a shoulder and do a little roll? It's basic. The problem is with a lot of football fans nowadays, they try and make football sound like rocket science, and it really isn't. Football is a very simplistic. It sounds difficult. That means you don't know what you're talking about. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. This here says, do you really need pressure resistance midfielders when you have got someone with the passing range of Onana in goal up the terrace? Well, this is the thing, Tay. Thank you for the super chat. Yes and no. So the manager spoke about how he wants to be the best transition team in the world. But again, we've also got into the habit as football fans of taking everything our managers say in press conferences so literally into the nth degree. Yes, he wants to be the best transition team in the world, but it doesn't mean he doesn't want to dominate the ball at times either. So I see United, I don't just want to be a counter-attack team. But that isn't what he said. He didn't say we're only going to play counter-attack. You've seen a lot of Man United fans get angry when the manager has not said we have to win the Premier League or it's failure. And then you hear what Rashford said on the overlap today, that the manager never speaks about top four. He only ever speaks about us winning trophies. But he isn't always going to say that in the press because we know what the press are like. They're going to twist everything and always try and make things sound negative. It's like, stop taking everything so literally. We'll transition at times, we'll dominate the ball at times. It's going to depend who we're playing. And if we're up against a team who are better at holding the ball than us, we're not going to go toe-to-toe with them because you'll get exposed. So, look, I agree with you. Horses for courses. And we were very good at that last year and we'll just get better. Eric 7 Haag, nobody cares about United anymore. Game's the game. Yet you've got our manager's name in your bio. Like you're using their manager's name as your thing. We don't matter anymore, bro. Imagine that. Imagine
the
that.
same joke from like how many months ago about Man United.
I know. I know. It's crazy.
It's embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing.
I told you, these Liverpool fans have had so much 7-Up. They've got the diabetes in Merseyside must be mad right now. Mad legs falling off. People getting blind.
Hey, listen, why do you think Tom's teeth the way they are, bro? You know what I'm saying? He must there.
Violation.
Speaking of Liverpool, third bid meant to be going in for Lavia. How are you feeling about it? I haven't spoke for a good few weeks now, Tomboy. Like, how are you feeling about the start of your season? It started off well with Slobosly and McAllister, but still no Lavia. Half your midfield's gone. No new defenders. Didn't expect anything new in the attack. Pretty average pre-season. Do you feel like Liverpool are ready for the start of the season?
No, but I never thought we would be. This whole Lavia stuff needs to hurry up and sort itself out. I'm fine for the club trying to negotiate. That's fine. Because apparently, even if he was to arrive, now we're not going to play him against Chelsea. Stupid decision, but it is what it is. I'm fine if you're trying to negotiate. Just stop waiting a week between bids. It doesn't take a week to figure out how to put £3 more million on a transfer fee. Just to get it rejected after 5 minutes anyway. So we clearly quite need a defensive midfielder because going into Chelsea, we're either playing Curtis Jones and God forbid Alexis McAllister's knock that he got yesterday is serious. If it is, we're down to Joel Matip. Joel Matip at DM is a genuine serious consideration going into Chelsea if McAllister's injury is serious. Or Connor Bradley, who spent last year on loan at Bolton, goes in at right back so we can move Trent to DM. Like I'm willing to give the club time because they've done some good things.
Move Trent to where?
We'd move Trent to DM.
They've done it twice in pre-season, bro. They did it twice.
It doesn't really work very well because you end up getting one of the most creative players in the Premier League and then telling them to go cover left centre back. It doesn't work.
Well, I hope you try to do that with how we've been playing in pre-season. I pray you try and do that.
It's wild that you're going to pay around £50 million for a 19-year-old and have him as your main midfielder. You've not replaced Ginny Wijnaldum. You've lost the experience of Milner. You've lost the experience of Henderson, and we're talking about Liverpool's midfield is going to be marshalled by a 19-year-old. And I'm not even going to mention that the club that he was at got relegated because that ain't fair because it's not on him. But I think we forget about the standards of and expectations of a club like Southampton to now the standards and the expectations of a club like Liverpool, and they're nowhere near each other. So whatever level of talent this kid is, how is he going to go into Liverpool's midfield and make it anywhere near as what it was before? Because surely you're talking about a team that's challenging for the title, wants to challenge for the title, or wants to get top 4. But is that with Romeo Lavia? I don't think it is.
I think he's a very good player.
I wanted to add on to that as well, just to say that, like, right now, it is because, look, as much as I do think Lavia is very talented, very good player, I do think that he will become a top player in the Premier League at one point. But it is becoming a bit of a joke that teams can command such a high price for a player that's, let's just say, he's had one good season in the Premier League. Same as, like, you're looking at players like Conor Gallagher, one good season in Premier League, and you have to pay 50 odd million for them. And if we're being honest, like Kieran just mentioned, he's a 19-year-old coming into a big Liverpool team that's going to be expected to, if we're all being honest here, going to be challenging on all fronts. We all expect Liverpool to be pushing on to Man City and Arsenal next season, being that team that's going to be in the top 4, and then, of course, in the other competitions, expected to challenge. He's now coming from, as you say, Southampton, a relegation side, to now Liverpool, a whole new expectation on him. And when he doesn't perform, he's got no one else to come in and back him up. He's their only CDM. He's the only one of a good level. It's not like you've got another senior player that can just play every now and then, because if we're being real, keeping Hendo there would have even been a good option, because you've got an old senior player.
No, it wouldn't.
No. Fabinho would have been a better option.
I'm not a Liverpool fan, but keeping Hendo or Fabinho, a senior player, regardless of who they were, there to marshal him, that look, when he's not having a good game, they can come in, they can cover for him, and then he's going to need someone to guide him. He hasn't got that now. He's got
just
no
to add to that as well. And this goes back to the
point
point I was making. This was the point I was making earlier, Kieran. What you said there is exactly why we need to go in for Caicedo, bro, because Lavia is our next option. And like you've said, you've got a lot of question marks around him. So for me, it's too big of a drop.
Let's not imagine that Moises Caicedo is that much more experienced than Romeo Lavia.
He's more developed, and he's better.
And I agree with that as well. He's been in the Premier League for one season. We're talking about an 80 to 100 million player.
How experienced Romeo Lavia is. We can't, because the man was a part of a Southampton team that was horrific last season. Moises Caicedo shone in a Brighton team that was really good. We have no guarantees as to how Romeo Lavia would have looked in a team that actually held the ball and was decent attacking-wise. Do I think he should be the starting DM for Liverpool Football Club when there's aspirations of a title challenge? No, absolutely not. Because very few teams have success at the top level with a DM who's young. But ultimately, we are in this position because the club is buying for the next 5 years. Romeo Lavia is going to be a really, really good DM. The club and the manager seem to have an idea that Stefan Bajcetic is going to be the perfect competition and a really good DM for him in the future. That is ultimately going to mean next season we are not... I've said this for a number of weeks now. We are not going to challenge for the title next season. The focus for us next season will be on the Europa League, and it will be on securing the top 4 or top 5 or whatever it is to get Champions League the year after. We are going to try and use the opportunities that we're in next season to develop these younger players further along than they would be after a year, and hope that by 24-25, they are at a level where they can be relied upon to be a stalwart in the Liverpool midfield that can challenge for a title. Ultimately, this is an entirely new look Liverpool midfield. We have no basis for how anyone's going to look. My issue with the Lavia saga is how long it has dragged on for. We knew Fabinho was going to leave 3 weeks ago. It's not like we got the offer for Fabinho and then 2 days later he signed. We got the offer for Fabinho. We had a week and a half of silence. Then his dogs were blamed. Then apparently they were transfer ban that no one knew about. Then apparently there was just registration issues that we couldn't figure out. And then 3.5 weeks later he finally left. In those 3.5 weeks, are you telling me that the club didn't have a contingency plan in place to go, we'll get someone through the door? Like it just screams of...
Tom, this is the thing, yeah. You Liverpool fans have been swindled again. I don't see how people have not been talking about this more, because Liverpool are going into the season with no DM. They're going in without any cover at centre back because you've got 3 injury-prone centre backs in
KJ,
Matip,
they've got Trent.
Konate,
They've got Trent. Who's going to be their
and-
CDM?
You got Konate, you got you got Konate, Matip, and Gomez, all injury prone. So you need a partner for Van Dijk, and this guy obviously is declining because of his injury anyway. You still, when was the last time you actually had a right back who was a right back? Ever since Trent came along, you're not even giving him flipping cover for that right back position. You're playing Milner there, and I don't know, some random kids at some point. This is what I mean. Liverpool need like so many defensive and midfield players, but they don't get spoken about. It doesn't get spoken about, and it's crazy to me because if any other club was going into a season like this with so many holes not being filled, there'll be literally Sky Sports reports on it every single day. But for some reason, Liverpool and FSG can get away with having this mediocre summer and not be spoken about. It's crazy to me.
They will.
And this is exactly why, Tom. This is exactly why.
I've never seen an ownership group able to control a narrative as well as FSG are able to at times. Do you want to know why there isn't being as much of a hysteria being made about this? Because a month and a half ago, Alexis McAllister signed on one of the deals of the summer. That's fantastic. You've been given ample credit for that, and he's looked very good in pre-season. But Alexis McAllister will all of a sudden look a lot worse when he has to spend 38 games covering for Curtis Jones. The worst thing that actually could have happened to us was Curtis Jones looking good at the Under-21 Euros at DM alongside Angel Gomez. Should we go sign 5'5" Angel Gomez to anchor our midfield? Like, come on, we need to set standards as a football club.
What is crazy is, like, I'm not surprised, though, because have you seen the new director of football at Liverpool? You guys seen this dude? And the fact that you all expected the truth from this guy is crazy. Like, this guy came in, right? And Liverpool fans didn't believe in him. He's been pocketing that money for himself. They've been Tinder swindled. But you know, it's mad. When he started the summer off, there's 2 early deals. Oh God, they're going to have a Thuram or a Kone. Then it was Lavia. You think they'll get them in pre-season? They'll get that defender in. And look, I agree. I think it will be spoken about. But Jurgen Klopp, because he's so charismatic and he's got such a brilliant persona, he's won every single trophy possible since he's been there. It's just not as big a talking point as will Arsenal win a trophy or not. Man United are a decade without a Premier League. Chelsea's situation. There's just, because they've won trophies, they're just not spoken about. The craziest thing is I still think they'll make Champions League football this year. They'll be in the top 5, Liverpool, no doubts in my mind. And there was a comment earlier that says Lavia's ready to start. I'm going to ask a question again, and I'm testing my football knowledge. How many defensive-minded midfielders have you all seen at 18, 19 years of age, good enough of playing 38 games in a title-winning season? How many have ever done that in the history of, forget European football, in the history of Premier League football? Who's had a midfielder of that age and profile that's been able to do that? And the reason I say that is because the only level of success for Liverpool is winning titles. Coming fourth isn't a good season. It's acceptable, but it isn't a good season. I can't think of anyone who's been good enough to do that.
Literally in the Premier League, none. In Europe,
None.
Busquets is it?
Yeah, that's it.
None.
And this is exactly why I'm confused as to why Liverpool aren't moving in for a Paulinho. Do you know what I mean? When I spoke,
Because it's going to cost them 80 million.
Yeah, I mean, 50 million for Lavia is a bit expensive. I'm not paying 80 million pounds.
Sorry, let me just interject. So Busquets is a really good example, but he was playing in some people's eyes, the greatest club team of all time. Liverpool are not that. So yeah, he did it, but look who he had Xavi and Iniesta around him, Messi up front, and look at the defense that was behind him. With all due respect to this Liverpool team right now, that Barca team was smashing 7 or 8-0. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, sorry, go on, carry on.
What happened to Verratti? There's players out there. Like I said, a 19-year-old. And it's levels. And it looked like that person who said that Lavia was ready to go in and be a first-team player. Now, it looked like he supported Southampton. And it doesn't surprise me that it's coming from Southampton fans that see him week in, week out. But it's levels. It's levels. A misplaced pass here and a misplaced pass there at Southampton, someone might clean it up. At Liverpool, it's a break and it's a goal. And people are looking around and pointing to the 19-year-old. It doesn't take many bad games or many mistakes for a 19-year-old to lose confidence, and the confidence and swag they had, which propelled them to everyone's screens at Southampton, is completely washed out at Liverpool because the expectations are completely different. Like, for example, Declan Rice is coming to this Arsenal team. He's not as fit as Arsenal players, and he doesn't know the system yet. I'm not expecting him to come into this team right now and be the player that Mikel Arteta wants. However, I think he will be that, or I feel he will be that, but right now he's not that. And that's Declan Rice we're talking about. Somebody who's played in the Premier League for 5 or 6 seasons. This is Lavia, 1 season at Southampton. Like, no, it's crazy.
I was going to say,
what would have made sense for me? What would have made?
Sorry, guys. Let me just interject again. So Busquets, and I want to use this as an example. So Busquets, who many would regard as maybe the best DM of the last 15, 20 years in football, his first 2 seasons at Barca, let's not forget, and I went and checked, we knew we had Xavi and Iniesta. His first 2 seasons there, he had Yaya Toure and Keita in the midfield with him. The point I'm making is it wasn't 18, 19-year-old Busquets, just you, no backup, go and run that midfield. Imagine that. You Xavi, Iniesta, Keita, and Yaya Toure is your kind of supporting act. Lavia doesn't have that. He's literally being told, you have got to go and anchor and run a Liverpool midfield to try and win a Premier League at 18, 19 years of age. It's, like I said before, it's impossible because it's never been. I just think
what would have made sense.
It's really hard for Lavia as well. So go on.
What would have made sense, Tom, is keeping Fabinho. Like, I know he's on this downward spiral, right? But for me, I was saying, like, out of the midfielders to get rid of, I would have got rid of Thiago and I would have got rid of Henderson and kept Fabinho for another season to hand over that responsibility to a Lavia. If you're not going to go in for a player like Fabinho, like Paulinho.
I agree with the decision to sell Fabinho, because the one thing that I've always criticised this club on is the sell to buy, but they don't know when to sell. That's the biggest issue. But we're a sell to buy model that doesn't know when is the right time to sell. Fabinho had a clear physical decline last season. You don't bounce back from physical declines. You can bounce back from poor technical declines because that could be form. But that man was getting outpaced by referees at points last season. I can't have that in my midfield. Getting rid of him for £40 million, which is just shy of what we paid for him 5 years ago. Incredible bit of business. The issue has come with, we had no contingency plan for how to replace him. Romeo Lavia, on an individual level, is a good player with the potential to be one of the best in the Premier League in 3 to 4 years in his position, because he's got all the attributes. But development is such a key thing, and he's not going to develop at the rate we want if he is the senior player in that DM position. If this football club seriously thinks Romeo Lavia and Stefan Bajcetic are an ample DM rotation next season, they're going to be exposed like you wouldn't believe when it comes down to the big moments, because Romeo Lavia, fantastic player. His experience of big moments is a big night out at the Emirates when they drew 3-3 and bottled it in the last minute. Stefan Bajcetic's experience of big moments is getting ran rings round by Luka Modric and Toni Kroos at Anfield and losing 5-2. They're good players, but they need time to develop. And it's not like we have... It'd actually be a bit more acceptable if we had, let's say, McAllister had been here 3 years and Thiago was actually available to play 30 games a season and not 15. If we had 2 players in front of them who were experienced top players at the level, you could sort of go, you can get away with it. It'll be a little bit ropey at times, but you can get away with it. The issue is we have waited 3 years. And because we've waited 3 years, we are now in a position where we've had to refresh the entire thing. So going into the first game of the season, because shock horror, Thiago is injured, the idealistic idea was to name an entirely new midfield 3 for the opening day at Stamford Bridge away. Now, I don't personally think Chelsea are as scary as previous years, because I think if we've got problems, they've got big problems, because Enzo Fernandez, who partners him in the midfield, because they don't want Gallagher there. Is it going to be Andre Santos, who's making a Premier League debut? Like, there's question marks about Chelsea. We've got the best of a bad situation on that opening day. But something has to be done quick. And it has to be done now, ideally.
You know what, Tom? This is where sometimes teams can't do this whole plan for the 5 years, buy a player, is going to cover us for 5-6 years. Sometimes a stopgap thing is needed. You guys need a stopgap. a loan of a player who may
Okay,
be
no,
28,
we've
29.
never done.
m-
I can
maybe-
name you our last 3 stopgaps.
Yeah. No,
Ben Davies never played a game of football for us. Ozan Kabak done a month and got dropped on a loan spell. And Arthur
no, but
Melo
not
was
stopgaps like that. You look at Casemiro as a prime example, though. Casemiro, when we bought him, everyone was, "Oh my god," but he can't play for you for a decade. I don't think you can just buy everyone that can give you a decade. You have to mix and match at times. I want to go to some super chats here. First one says Liverpool can get El Neni for a pie and a Coke. Is what Martin says here. Li Lin says 3 the show. I don't know about that mentioned.
She loved the show. It's like
Love
a
the
love
show.
the show.
It's a heart. Love the show, Terry. Keep it up. As an Arsenal fan, don't understand why Lee Gunner gets any airtime. Zero insight, no nuance, doesn't understand context. He consistently is all only on results. Well, he gets airtime because if every Arsenal fan came on and said the same thing, it'd be a very boring channel. And we like to provide like a plethora of opinions that range. That's why he gets airtime. But I appreciate the super chat. Thank you very much indeed. This here says, in addition to the midfield worries, Liverpool have to pray that Virgil and Robertson return to past levels and Konate stays healthy, and it's long. That's very, very
I
true.
don't know how bad it is. Our third best centre back this pre-season behind Van Dijk and Konate was a player who spent the last half season, so from January onwards, working under Joey Barton at Bristol Rovers. That is on form our third best centre back.
I disagree with you, mate. I think Liverpool will end up there challenging, perhaps not all the way, but definitely up there causing troubles to City, Arsenal, and Manchester United.
Me personally, if you're not there all the way, that's not a challenge.
You're not been there.
You were just there. Like for me, a challenge is you take it to the last.
Saying that, so of course that's what they think a challenge is. You know what I'm saying?
A challenge is taking it to the last couple of days, like the last game week or two. You're in there with the shot the entire time. We're not gonna be there next season because we don't have a midfield that can win midfield battles against mid-table teams.
I get you. This year says it's going to be funny watching Man United play next season. Imagine a whole midfield treating the ball like an anthrax bomb. Crazy gang vibes. I think we're going to play like Wimbledon. Love it.
Where's he getting this from?
Hey, listen, and if we do that, smash your team, aren't we? Happy, innit?
Oh, bruv, yeah, you better hope. By the way, viewers, keep hitting that like button. Let's get this past 1,000 likes whilst we are live, please. Moving on to Tottenham a little bit. Some super chats here. First one says Spurs changing their name to Only Fools, signing Mickey Pierce. Who's next? Del Boy. Kids won't get it. Sorry, Spurs fans, had to say it. That actually brings us to the news. There are reports you're quite close to signing. I don't know who this guy is. I've never heard of him until you've been linked to him. Mickey van der Ven. A 30 million euro bid has been made. He's expected to be rejected, but it feels like Spurs will get that done. How are you feeling about your summer and your plans ahead of the new campaign, George?
VDV. He's the new VDV. He's reclaimed the name because there's always been one that fell off now. So, I'm looking forward to it. He's a good player.
Thanks with VVD though, so
VVD, VDV, whatever the heck. He's VDV. That's what we call him.
I can't lie, Terry. I was expecting the sound effect. I was expecting the bomb.
No, but I've seen good things of him. He's young. He's still a prospect, but he looks good. He looks like a good ball carrier. We haven't signed a centre back for years. One of good quality. So he's one that can play on the left side, play left back and left centre back. So he's going to be able to cover 2 positions. The fees that they're talking about, for me, I've got a strong feeling Harry Kane's gone. I think this is why today we've seen quite a lot of news come out. Like everything on Tottenham went quiet for about 3-4 days. We didn't hear nothing. And then today you've had news on 2 centre backs. You've had news on a new strike. You've had news on another one. So I think the Harry Kane's money's coming in. I think they've already started to spend it in their heads, starting to get the deals done. So I'm quietly happy with the window. I think we've made some good moves. There's been some good players come in, but we need to do more. Like other teams, I still feel like the key positions that we've been coming to this window looking for, which is the centre backs, we've still not addressed. Let's get this one wrapped up and then hopefully get another one in. I think and I hope that we're going to get Tapsoba. Apparently, all the news is still pointing that we're trying to work that deal out. That's a top quality player there, and if he comes in, I think we're going to have a good team. So let's get that back line sorted, and then we can start talking about top 4 and causing some problems to some of you guys. But right now, yeah, right now it's just all talk with Tottenham. So until the deals come over the line, I don't really know what to say, but it's all right at the moment.
Anthony here says Mickey Mouse joining Van Disney in the Premier League. This here says, wow, it's amazing what a single Spursy season can do to a man. Drake is actually speaking some sense for a change.
A man said one single Spursy season. Yeah, look, we did have our bad season, but we're coming back. Everyone knows. I'm just not trying to do too much at the moment because we don't know what's happening with the Hurricane situation.
Coming back.
As
Coming back. I
was going to say, come back. Everyone knows.
Everyone knows. Everyone knows we're coming back. I'm not going to say too much until, look, we've got another 3.5 weeks left at the transfer window. Once that gets wrapped up, I think we're going to have some good business done. But it does matter whether Harry Kane is here or Harry Kane's not. Because if we do some good business and then Harry Kane's here, we're already, in my eyes, we're challenging for top 4. We're going to be in the top 4 and we're going to be making some noise. I don't see no other way.
Wow.
If you get the players that you're linked with, go on.
If Harry Kane leaves, then it's a whole different situation because then you're minusing 25 plus goals and you've got to take in the contingency of Richarlison being our number 9 and our
just
main
say he's crap. Just say he's crap and get it over with. Don't try and pay out Richarlison like he's a number 9. Just say he's crap.
He's not a number 9. He's the number 9. R9.
No, ARE. Let's see your day.
No. He's called Richard at the moment. He's gonna get the listen back. He's gonna get the leasing back.
So Spurs have got the new BBD coming and the new R9. Wow, it's the
Spurs' fans' heads are going to wobble when the season starts and you get the players that you've been linked with because you're not going to be happy. You're going to realise that your squad is inadequate to even get Europe, let alone top 4. Like. Top 4 is not happening next season for Spurs, and especially if they sell Harry Kane, which they have to. Who do you replace him with? Tottenham's dealings are awful, and with all this stuff with Joe Lewis, like they're in a bad place at the moment. New manager, it's just not good. It's not good. I sound horrible right now. I'm just looking at your face. It's like,
let it go, man.
It's true. It's true.
Kieran, I don't agree with that. To be honest, I think Tottenham have gone back to their habitat. They've gone back to humbling themselves. You know what I mean? They've left the glamorous managers in Mourinho and Conte. They've gone for someone who is less proven, someone that can actually build a team, build a little bit of harmony. Yeah, not proven. Someone that has a point to prove. I would say. Do you know what I mean? Because Tottenham. They didn't back Conte as much as they should have, and they didn't back Mourinho as much as they should have. So I think it's good for them that they've actually taken this hard reset. I don't see a negative in it. To be honest,
it's good, but this is the same fan base that turned around and said that Poch had taken them as far as they could. They were sold that story by Lavia, and they ran with it. Awful decisions to get rid of him, and they've paid for it since. They've brought in managers which you never thought would fit because the manager does not suit the owner or the chairman because they don't spend big amounts, and those managers needed big amounts. They wasted all those years when they had a manager that was willing to bring in youngsters, bring in players that no one really knew about, which they could make into stars. And now they have to start again. They've got an unproven manager. Yeah, I get that. An unproven manager who plays attacking football, which you will enjoy, but you've got a defense to. Honestly, it's terrible.
And what are we doing with that right now? We're looking to address that defensive problem.
Yes,
trying to give him a team that will be put together, like you say, a player that can work with he doesn't hate to get the big stars. He's going to go for some of the underground signings. He's going to get you some young players. And guess what? He is proven. People sitting there saying he's not proven. He's won trophies everywhere he's been. At Celtic,
Steven Gerrard won the trophy that Andrew Postecoglou won.
I knew that was coming out.
Wait. All right, Steven Gerrard did, but we're talking about a manager that's done it at different clubs, and he's proven to rebuild clubs. This isn't someone with
unproven at that highest level.
He's not done it at a high level. He's not done it at a high enough level. But this is the first step. You give these managers a chance. Pochettino never done it at a high level before he came.
They did it with Southampton.
Pochettino done it in the Premier League before, though.
Yes.
He done it at Southampton, and guess what? He didn't take them that far. He took Southampton to 8th.
No. We're not going to do this rewriting the history where Mauricio Pochettino had the same level of experience as Ange Postecoglou.
Well, he never won a trophy, and even till this day, people look at Pochettino and say, you know what, Poch hasn't won any trophies. He's not won
That-
trophies
that-
with
why-
let alone a big club.
Hold on now.
Wait, Poch has won trophies.
He won the thing with PSG. He won the cup. But
So you don't wanna talk about
I'm not
League
gonna
One, but
count
then you
it.
wanna
I'm
big
not
up
gonna count
the
PSG now.
Australian League. Come on now, you're not serious.
I'm not picking up. I'm not saying I'm not counting it for PSG for the league. I'm not counting it because when Pochettino went into that team, any other manager would have won the league with that team.
George, I'm so sorry, bro. You can't not count trophies, bro. A trophy is a
No,
trophy.
but
He's won it.
You can add some
you're done.
context.
Forget what you said about Poch. The main thing we're talking about, Big Ange, bruv. That's what we're talking about. Big Ange. We were calling him Fat Ange by the end of the season. And that.
Yeah, we're calling him Big Ange. We're talking about
he-
Big Ange. We're going to
he-
talk
the
about how
thing-
Big Ange is going to make some big noise.
Big noise of pain, bruv. Big noise of pain and sorrow. That's what the noise
Honestly,
you're going to be making.
so
this season.
and you said that. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
No, I'm just gonna say that I think they will improve their football. Yeah, like I watched a bit of their preseason. Look, they look good. I'll give him that. But in terms of him as a manager, obviously his experience level is really low. And in the Champions League, he hasn't shown much with Celtic. And you're gonna say, "Oh, it's only Celtic." Bruv, I've seen Shakhtar and Sheriff beat Real Madrid. So it is possible to show a bit of something in the Champions League.
Didn't he
And
let
when
Eden
he was playing
Hazard
Champions
score
League with
against them?
Celtic, hasn't seen anything. Hasn't shown me.
I
anything.
think,
So that's one
I
thing.
think that's harsh to say. Look, if you look at the way that the Celtic teams played, I think it was just a lack of quality from the Celtic team. Look, you could see that he played with intent. They actually played a good game. So
Sheriff had quality.
They put up a good game. They played with some good football, and they managed to dominate Real Madrid in some areas that no other teams could. And look, again, that wasn't enough to get a result. And we're not going to sit here and say, "Oh, look, playing good football is going to get you anything." It isn't, but it's a step up. It's a step up from what we've had. It's a step up from what a lot of teams can do, and it's going to show in the Premier League. See if he can sustain it or not. If you give him better players, which we are doing, and he's going to have some good top players of technical quality, like James Maddison, like Yves Bissouma. I don't see why this will go wrong. Honestly,
why we doing he plays nice football? I've seen some of the worst managers in this division play some lovely football. It doesn't
it's a consistency
matter
of good football.
But at the end of the day, Ange Postecoglou was coming into this Tottenham team massively. He can prove me wrong 100%, but he's coming into this job massively out of his depth because Tottenham Hotspur have the infrastructure and have the desire to be a top 4 Premier League team. And the last 3 managers to win the Scottish League were Neil Lennon, Steven Gerrard, and Brendan Rodgers. And none of those are anywhere near the Tottenham Hotspur level. Using what he achieved
Brendan
at
Rodgers
Celtic,
was your level.
Brendan Rodgers is.
If I was
Brendan Rodgers
is only of a bad level because of his last few years at Leicester.
he
Prior to that, he took Leicester to an FA Cup.
He took an FA Cup away from us. He took an FA Cup away from Chelsea.
You guys should have got Brendan Rodgers.
100%. 100%. So I see Tottenham making the same mistakes as normal, and the reason why I say that is because you say you're going after these slightly unknown players, but these are unknown players. These are not the players that we were playing on Football Manager. Oh, he's a star in the future. No, these are unknown players. If you look at Newcastle and who they're bringing in, the Tonellis, the who's that defender they bought in the centre back?
Livramento.
No.
Kieran, I think this is the whole point, though. This is the whole reason why.
But Tottenham, Newcastle are buying those players, the players that we knew were decent a couple of seasons ago. Oh, actually, we're going to give them a chance in Premier League. Tottenham are not helping out their new manager inexperienced by bringing in these unknown players.
Wait, hold on. Before I say what I'm going to say, George, is Ange in charge of the recruitment right now? Is he playing a big part in the recruitment right now?
You're asking me a question that I will not have the answer for because we're being totally honest. Tottenham's recruitment is all a bit messy right now. We went into this season with Paratici as our director of football. We're supposed to have someone else come in to be our CEO of football who was supposed to start work on July the 1st and still actually hasn't started work. We've been told that Daniel Levy is heading up the negotiations for the Micky van der Ven deal, and he's trying to finalize everything to get it done. And on top of that, I'm pretty sure we fired our chief scout or something like that last month. So who's in charge of Tottenham's recruitment activities? I'm not too sure. It could still be Paratici for all I'm aware of.
I get you on that, guys. I want to go to some of these super chats here. First one says the only big noise coming from Ange this season are the footsteps down the tunnel. Is what's said there. He won the Asian Cup with Australia. Hold that. That's true.
Ooh.
If one more Spurs fan says R9 for that Richarlison again, I'm going to bash my head against the wall. Spurs coming back to mid-table. Everyone knows 100%. Happy birthday, Tom, from Dom Hassan. Is your birthday, Tom?
No,
His
this
birthday last
this
week,
needs to stop now. Sam has blood on his hands for this. I don't even know why this is funny, but every single stream I'm on, someone just wishes me happy birthday.
Ah,
And it-
there we
Wait,
go.
you know what, Tom? In response, ask him how his missus is. Just ask him that. 'Cause that's why he's not here today, bro. That's why he's not here.
He's streaming now. Is Sam streaming now?
Apart from Pep and Klopp, as they are proven in England, where would you place Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, and Newcastle? Who has the better man in terms of who has the better manager?
See how they left out United because they know who's on top of those guys anyway.
Yeah. Who has the best manager? I would judge it based on who I would pick to come and manage my club right now. So I would go Arsenal, Chelsea, Newcastle, Tottenham in that order.
Nah, I want to say Poch over Arteta for now.
Same.
Uh,
I think you have to go over who's proven the most and what they can do and their abilities at multiple clubs. It's got to be Poch and then Arteta, then Eddie Howe, then Ange.
Yep.
There we go. Thank you. This here says, isn't it top 5 unless you're new? That's top 5 in. Again, I've been told 2 different things, but I understand it's the league's coefficient. So
Yeah,
yes,
it's the
top
league's
5. Top 5 should get you into the Champions League.
Mhm.
De Zerbi would have been the perfect fit for Spurs. Yeah, it would have been. But you know what's funny? If you'd have gone for if you'd have gone, no, I think he's just saying in general though. But there we go. Big up Nicholas Jackson for coming. He's coming for Liverpool. That's good. I can't wait for the build-up streams next week. Gary O'Neill has more experience than Ange in the Prem. That's true. That is true. Speaking of Arsenal, do they need to go out, Kieran, and buy another striker? Gabriel Jesus is going to miss anywhere between 2 to 6 weeks with a very minor knee injury. A lot of Arsenal fans last night were talking about it. There's links to the likes of Mohamed Kudus and co. But do you think Arsenal need to go out and buy themselves a new striker or new forward now? Has the injury almost just made people realize that there's a weakness in the squad there?
There is a weakness because the drop off from Jesus to Eddie and even Balogun, who's completely unproven, is quite vast. The problem is Arsenal was not a problem. Arsenal were not panic buying. They don't panic buy anymore. So if it's a case that we're going to bring in a striker, it would be a striker that we were potentially going for in the summer next season or in January. So I don't see him bringing in another player. You've got the likes of Trossard who can play as a false 9. Havertz can play in the 9. If you want, Martinelli can play there. I just don't see Arsenal bringing anyone in to cover for Jesus, who will inevitably come back in the team and start week in, week out anyway. So it would be a nice option to bring in someone, but I don't see it happening, if I'm honest.
Would you want Arsenal to bring in someone, a striker?
Like I said, I'm buying into what they're doing. So I don't want them to rush out and go and get just anyone. If they're going to go and get someone
Kieran,
who you had the plan to get.
You're not answering my question, bro. I'm not asking what your club's doing. I'm asking what you would do.
If we are going to go and get someone like a Victor Osimhen or someone of that ilk who's different to Jesus, then yes. But if we're going to bring in another player who is a style of Jesus or just a player who, no. If we're going to sell another striker, if we're going to sell Eddie and maybe get someone in. But I just don't. I don't see it. I wouldn't unless it's the player that we are going to get next season or in January. I wouldn't go out and buy another striker.
No, I think you need one, man. Just for the fact that Jesus is basically Samba Martial at this point, man. Like he's good when he's on the pitch, but he's getting injured too much, and he's missing important games for you guys, which is unfortunate because obviously he's a very talented player, and you guys need him. Like someone like Mohamed Kudus coming into your team, elevates your team, not just on the striking front, but also on the wings as well. Like you guys need that cover for Saka. So,
but that's different because that's a player who would have potentially come in anyway, regardless of whether Jesus was in or not, and he can play a multitude of different positions. So Kudus, from what my understanding is that he's coming in to be a competition for Saka, but can also play many different positions. So if we do go and get that, then yes, sweet. But I don't think that's veering too far away from what we would have done anyway.
I think that's the right thing to do. I do get where you're coming from. Unless you're bringing in someone that's better than Gabriel Jesus, maybe not. £40 million Mohamed Kudus. I was listening to Dean Jones earlier on today. A lot of journalists are kind of shocked that he's still available. That this kid's ready to move. £40 million asking price. Can play multiple positions, can cover in that striker role. That is who I would go for. If you're Arsenal, you've got to make that situation advance. You've got to push it onto that next level because it shows some frailties in that attacking area, if that makes sense. There's a super chat here that says thoughts on Arsenal going for, I think you mean Evan Ferguson.
Oh, good luck.
But that's going to be massive money. Again, there we go. Another Brighton player who we've only seen for one season. And he does look good. He looks like a bit of a monster, completely different to what we got. So yeah, it fits what I was just talking about there. But the price tag for this kid is going to be crazy.
You just signed a new contract. Yeah. Like literally in the summer, signed a new contract. You ain't getting him out.
You ain't getting him. You ain't getting him. No way.
Not a chance.
I've got to be honest. I think with the Arsenal situation as it is, the striker that you need that is different to Jesus that can get you sat next to, I believe Arsenal need a 25-goal, 30-goal season striker because you've got the creators in Saka and Odegaard. You want someone who can finish the chances that they're creating more consistently. That's not available right now. I think that becomes more. I don't think that's actually ever been available this window unless you're willing to pay 150 for Osimhen. So I'm actually, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd actually take the gamble on Balogun. I think there's a real player there. I know he's not as proven, but to get 21 goals in League One last season in a side that was a bit naff at times, there's clearly something there. Jesus is only missing the first 5 games at like worst case scenario apparently. So it's not like you need to buy someone to replace him for half the season. Balogun, for them first 5 games, that could almost be like a trial run, a test run, see how he fits in. If he is what Arsenal's missing, if he offers something different, then all of a sudden you might have that problem position solved because you were linked with selling him for 40 to 50 million. You might just save yourself 40 to 50 million on a striker if he's able to kick on from the form he showed last season. And then you're finally able to get Eddie Nketiah out the door, who is on one of the worst contracts I've ever seen. The man scored 2 goals after 2 seasons of Nottingham and got 100 grand a week. Like,
Kieran, correct me if I'm wrong. Kieran, correct me if I'm wrong, but with Balogun, I get the sense that he wants to go somewhere now where he's going to be like the main man. Week in, week out, gonna be first choice. I don't think, he's gonna stick around now because Jesus got injured, because he knows himself that Arteta wasn't planning to make him the first choice. Do you know what I'm saying? So he's gonna look at it like, I could be banging in goals. Jesus comes back and then he finds his way back into the team. And as it stands, from my understanding, he's been training away from the rest of the team. He hasn't played since his first game. I watched that game, Arsenal's first preseason game. And he hasn't been playing since. I think the plan is to move him on. I think they're going to move him on. I don't think Arsenal fans should even be looking at Balogun right now as part of their plans. I think they're looking to move him on. I think it's going to be Eddie. But if it's up to me, like if I was picking that team, I would probably play Trossard. He's the closest player that you're going to get to a Jesus. But I still think Arsenal need a finisher. The only player I can think of really is Tony. But again, he's not available till January to come back. And then if you want to take a punt on someone, maybe a Vlahovic that we're looking at. Do you know what I mean? He's a finisher. He's got a clean finish on him. So it's a bit peak in the striking market, but I do think you need a striker. I think you need a different type of player to a Jesus. You need someone that can just finish chances.
So a couple of things. So the first one, Tom said that Arsenal need a 20-goal season striker, which I get, because if you look at Jesus' stats and numbers, they're not the type you're expecting for a player who's going to win you the league. But Arsenal scored the most goals they've ever scored in the Premier League last season. And Arsenal didn't lose the Premier League because they didn't score goals. The games that they dropped where people say we fell off a cliff were 2-2 draw against Liverpool, 3-3 draw against Southampton, and a 2-2 draw against West Ham. That's not That weren't because we didn't score enough goals. It's because we leaked goals. It's because of poor defending and poor decisions. And in my opinion, we didn't quite have the squad to sustain the run till the end of the season. And with regards to Balogun, I completely understand. He's gone to France. He's had a season on loan. He smashed it in France. He wants to come back. But he's forgetting what club he's at. He's at Arsenal. Like, you can't expect to go to France one season and be the starter for Arsenal the following season. It's crazy. Where is he going to go? There was talks with Chelsea. Why is he going to go Chelsea? What is Chelsea's history shown you that going to Chelsea, you're going to be the main man guaranteed week in, week out? Never. And
Kieran, you have to look at it from his point of
never.
You have to look at it from his point of view, though, because he had a really good season. He's not going to be. There's going to be a lot of teams after him. There's going to be a lot of teams after him. So why should he stick around at a club where he's basically going to be like second choice or even third choice when he can go to a team where he can start week in, week out? So you have to look at it from that point of view as well. You know what I mean?
That, but who are the clubs that are in after him? There was talk of Inter Milan. It's Inzaghi, the manager there. He didn't want him because he wanted Morata. So
no, they're just broke. They're just broke. That's what the problem is.
And again, we're talking about Italy. They ain't got the money, and Arsenal were well within their rights to put that 50 million price tag. And he's not within his rights to turn around to Arsenal and say they should reduce that. It's crazy. Sit there, bide your time. You'll get games. I think Arsenal should sell Eddie Nketiah because I can see where his bar is. He's a goal scorer. Those players aren't really wanted in the top level of the Premier League anymore as starters. They're not. But I think Balogun should be the second striker as a second option for this season to see how he does. But yeah, I just get the feeling his mind's made up. I think he wants to leave. I think he wants to go somewhere where he knows he's going to start week in, week out with no issues. That's how I kind of look at it. Yeah,
you know, you can just say, that's how I see it.
Yeah, but you're going to have to, whatever team that is, it's not going to be, is that going to be anyone in the top 6? Is that going to be anyone in the top 8? Top 10? What top 10 team needs a striker? And are they paying 50 million for Balogun and having as their striker week in, week out? It's such a risk. It's such a risk.
I don't think he's fussed with. Ideally, he might want to stay in the Prem, but he's already played outside of the league, so I don't think that would be too much of an issue. I think if Inter Milan were happy to pay the money, I think he would have ended up going there.
Yeah.
West Ham, apparently they wanted him, but again, they're not trying to pay up what you're asking for. I think it will get done. Whether that's what Arsenal bringing the price down, there's a lot of clubs that are definitely after this guy after the season that he had.
But they're not willing to pay the £50 million. And if Arsenal were to drop that £50 million, you'd look at that in comparison to everyone else who's getting bought and say that Arsenal have not got the value that they should have got for that player. They should use the heart.
Listen, I know he played in League R and he's very talented, but when you buy these young players with hype, unless you've seen them play for a quality team at a high level, it's hard to judge. You know, you think of Brewster at Liverpool, you think about, Jordan Ibe at Liverpool. These guys, they kind of went for some fairly serious money.
Solanke at Liverpool.
Solanke, yeah. I mean, you guys have striped up 3 clubs with bang average players. You even got to look at Chelsea's own version. Like, he didn't leave, but look at Callum Hudson-Odoi at youth level, a Don. As soon as he got into that first team, I saw skill, I saw technique. But when you're an attacking player, there are 2 outputs that if you ignore them, you're mad. And that is goals and assists. And unless you know he can, and I know that people go, he scored in League R. I know he did. But I've seen average players score lots of goals in that league. So it's such a hard barometer. I want to say average. They're all better than me. They're all better than everyone probably watching this show. I'm just talking about the elite end of the spectrum. So it's a hard one, really. £50 million is a lot of money. But if he was really, for me, if Arsenal really believed he was worth £50 million with barely any experience, they wouldn't be letting him go.
So what do you think of
my view, yeah.
So with that, Terry? I don't agree with the comments, but the comments asking about Højlund, as in, does that logic not also apply with Højlund as well?
In what way? What logic?
The whole, like, you can't really speak on young players, young strikers without seeing them too much.
Højlund has played regularly. Højlund has played regularly in Serie A, one of the top 3 leagues in the world. He's played international football for his country in Europe, which is the hardest continent to play football in, and scored 6 goals in 6 games as an example. And he's being scouted by the big clubs. They want him. He's turned down PSG as an example. Man United want him. It's kind of the opposite with Balogun. I don't see any of the big clubs wanting him as an example. Arsenal have already got him. It's one of the biggest clubs in the world have him, and they're not bending over backwards to keep him. That's all. For me, that's just always a red flag. It's always a, like if you start dating a girl and she goes, I don't have any girlfriends. All my friends are men. It's a flash in the back of your head. No, it's true. It's a flash. I'm not saying he's not good, but there's just a red flag with this player for me.
Because we don't know.
Kieran, do you feel like Arsenal are kind of outpricing him a little bit? I know he had a good season last year, but let's be real. It's going to take a lot of convincing to keep him if Mikel Arteta wants to go down that route, because he's made it clear already, but just from his actions. You know what I mean? He hasn't played a single preseason game. He's been training by himself.
But he's injured. He's injured.
How are you training by yourself, but you're injured, bro? Come on.
I haven't seen anything about him training by himself. If I'm honest, I haven't seen him anything about training by himself. But he was injured in that final game against Barcelona, and I've not seen anything since he's come back from that tour. So I don't know anything about Balogun training on his own. Look, he's a frustrated youngster who believes his ability. Sorry, I shouldn't say hype. But Arsenal, as I said, are well within their rights to ride off that wave of hype that's gone in France. Like you said it, Ryan Brewster. Liverpool have absolutely done Sheffield United over with Ryan Brewster because they knew how good he was, and he paid 26 million for him, which is crazy. But they were going off the form, which was a bit of championship form, and what he did in the under-17s World Cup. Now Arsenal clubs have seen Balogun do it in, yes, it's League A. It's not the greatest league in the world. However, they've seen enough of a player. They've seen the attributes of that player that, in comparison to what a top player is and what he can do in his game, what his development might be, they're buying potential. So, yeah, look, Arsenal. I don't think Arsenal want to sell, but if they have to, it's going to be at the price they want. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I'm looking at the market right now. We can all see that there's not that many striking options. And after the season Balogun had last year, and the fact that there hasn't been much concrete interest in terms of actually bidding for him and trying to, reach that 50 million, I do think you're outpricing him a little bit. Ideally, yes, you'd like to get that 50 M's, but I think Mikel, I think you're going to eventually bring it down a bit. I don't know. I'm trying to think of someone. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a team right now that was going to pay 50 million for Balogun.
Well, I don't think teams will pay 50, but I think between four, I think they can get 40 to 45 potentially.
Yeah, I think that's more reasonable. 40 million is more realistic.
What alternatives there out there for a young striker? Who are the best young strikers out there?
West Ham will bite eventually. West Ham will pay that money once they sell that Gianluca Scamacca lad. That's what I said. They'll go in there and pay that money for Balogun.
Tay here says United paid 50 million for Martial in 2015 when he only had 11 goals in 49 appearances.
That's a lie.
Well, I think we paid 37 million. It would raise, but either way, did that work out? Like that's the thing, isn't it? Like when you buy young players, it also depends where they go. Young players need to go to a settled environment. Going to I think Balogun going to West Ham.
Awful.
Even though they won a trophy last year, you just look what's going on there right now. It's like, don't do it. He's better off.
Yeah.
Like if he moves anywhere in the Prem, they don't need anyone. Like Villa right now would be a good move. Brighton, if they needed a striker, would be a good move. You've got to go to well-run clubs. You really got to do that. Look, and I'm not saying Balogun isn't a good player. I'm just stating if he had the ability to become one of the best, this is what I don't understand. And I know that Arsenal fans are like, yeah, but he wants to play first-team football irregular now. If Arteta and Arsenal believe that this kid could go on to be one of the best number 9s in the world, you wouldn't let him leave.
Yeah,
you just wouldn't. You just don't do that.
Yeah, case in point, before he did what he did, like number 11 at Man United, teams were in for him. We said no, you're not. He's not leaving. Never let him out on loan. Started giving him games, and eventually became a first-team player.
Yeah, Arteta understands that it's not all about the here and now. That's the only thing I'm saying. And Arsenal fans that disagree with my opinion, I'm asking you why Arteta is not saying, listen, I know Jesus is our guy, but Balogun's got the ability to be one of the best in the world. You'd have to give him that game time, because I don't remember a time in my life where my club or any of the big clubs have had one of the best young talents in the world, and we've said you're going to play with the reserves and get a League Cup game. You know,
Well, we
Man
did it
United,
with Saliba.
Man United, yeah. Well, you guys loaned him out because he wasn't ready to play. But as soon as he was back in your first team, he moved straight in. Man United didn't buy an 18-year-old Rooney and Ronaldo and play them in the League Cup. Balogun's 22 as well, by the way. He's not a kid. He's young, but he's not a child anymore in football.
Yeah.
He's 22, turning.
Let's not forget as well. Let's not forget he's like playing for the American men's national team now,
Yeah,
starting
he,
for
he won the nation
as
league.
well.
He won the nation league
So
with them as well.
I don't see anything wrong with him wanting more game time, and
No,
if he sees if he doesn't think he'll get out Arsenal, then yeah, I think 50 million is outpricing him a bit, in all honesty.
But even the teams that you mentioned there, Terry, Brighton's and Aston Villa's, he's not better than what they've got. He's not better than Danny Welbeck right now. And it sounds crazy, but like he's not. He's not. Is he better than Danny Welbeck? Maybe at certain attributes, but he's not. Is he better than Ollie Watkins right now? No, he's not. He's not. Look.
We need to dig into this, Don. Here we go. How good do you think Balogun really is, Kieran?
I've seen Balogun. I've watched him through the youth ranks. He's a very talented player. His best position was where he was coming off the left, and he had a bit more freedom. He is Arsenal fans know about Balogun because we've been excited for years, and the fact that he went over to France and did bits, we're even more excited. So when we see in the 50 million price tag, it's like, yeah, everyone's up for sale essentially, but if you want him, you have to pay over the odds for him, like, because they're using it as a point, like, use the hype to get some decent money for him.
Yeah, but the thing is, Kieran, the only time that you can actually stick to a figure which we've all kind of decided, well, we've all kind of agreed that is quite unreasonable, is if you were trying to keep the player and the player was the one that was trying to get out of the move. Then you can say, okay, look, that shows how much you value the player. But the fact of the matter is, Arteta doesn't value him enough to guarantee him starting. So then to add to that, the player wants to leave. Why are you charging us 50 million?
But is he better than Gabriel Jesus? No, he's not. He's not better than Gabriel Jesus. So
might be a better finisher than Gabriel Jesus. I haven't seen enough of Balogun, but going off of the goals I saw last season, he looks like a clean finisher.
That's fine, but he's probably not. But that's sort of undermining the other attributes that Gabriel Jesus brings. Like his dribbling is unbelievable. Some of the best I've seen at the club. His ability to take on a man is unbelievable.
That's not what I'm disputing. I said finishing. Balogun looks like a better finisher than Jesus.
But is he? Is he?
I would argue that he's
not.
From the clips that I saw of his goals last season, I think, listen, he looks like a clean finisher, man. I'll be real.
He's just not. Stop the questioning now. We've got what we needed. I understand
but
now.
He's just not. He's not. He's not a better finisher. He's not better than Jesus right now, cut and shut on any attribute whatsoever. Not there.
Could he be better though?
I mean, that's a high bar. Gabriel Jesus is a very good player, like very good. Like if he could finish his dinner, we're talking about a world-class striker without any questions.
That's a big if for Gabriel Jesus, that though, because that's been the big thing he's never been able to do.
It is big if. It is a big if. But
I think it comes down to which player can close the gap on the other attributes more so. So for me, I think Balogun is a good finisher. He's not a great finisher. He's a good finisher. I think Jesus is at times a poor finisher. But I think Jesus' overall game, his hold up, his link up, his dribbling, his passing, that is quite comfortably clear. Now, it will ultimately come down to, does Arteta believe that Balogun can get closer to Jesus' all-round game? Or can Jesus get closer to Balogun's finishing level? And then which one am I going to commit to?
That takes time, and you're not gonna. You're good by playing Balogun now, just because of his potential, is going to bring down the overall quality of the team. Whereas it's about timing. It's about the timing.
Equally, just to put it out there, if you put Gabriel Jesus into a decent French team next season, I think he could score over 20 goals because I don't think the league standards are as high. Balogun had 21 goals on 28 GA. That's bad finishing, according to Twinny here. Thank you for the super chat. Did he train with the team? He did train with the team before Barcelona. Yeah, I heard he had a little injury, but that's only what I read. Did someone not tell Arteta he already has 7 midfielders in the team and you can only have 25 squads and 9 on the bench? He's doing a Nottingham Forest. I don't think so.
Nah, they're
When
versatile.
I said they've
versatile
got a big
players.
squad, they said we need a big squad.
Yeah, based on reports, Balogun doesn't want to be here unless he gets first team guaranteed. No point in struggling with that. Get the most for him. And I hear you. I'm just pointing out, and this is maybe I'm just trying to make Arsenal fans feel better. If you trust your manager and he isn't willing to give a young starlet first team opportunities regularly, that tells you that he doesn't think he can be better than Jesus.
Nah,
It's not
Terry,
like,
just say how you really feel. You don't think he's that good. Just say it.
no,
Just
listen, but I haven't watched him enough to have an overriding opinion. I'm just telling you that when you look at, we spoke about it earlier when everybody was saying Chelsea can't. What if Levi Colwell's silly because what if they replace him in 2 years? Well, Levi Colwell at Chelsea will only be replaced typically if he isn't good enough. And every club's got examples. Arsenal have Gnabry, Man United have Paul Pogba, Chelsea have got KDB. Everyone will have an example of a player they let go. City could have it with Lavia as an example. But when you look at how many young players are released and let go every year from the age of 22 and younger over a 10-year period, you may be lucky if one goes on to be an absolute star that you should never have let go of. So the fact that Arsenal are happy to let him go for a good price, that in itself, just with a general rule within football at the elite end of the spectrum, means he probably isn't good enough. And that isn't a dig at him. He's probably good enough to play in the Premier League. I'm not saying he isn't. I'm just talking about being a leading striker for an Arsenal or a Chelsea or a Man United. There's something in that for me. There's just something in it. You know, how many years, KJ, we sat on here and I said, I don't think Zaha is one of the best of the best. And listen, he's gone to Galatasaray, a really big club. He played in the Prem all those years, but people were talking about him as one of the best wingers in the world. And I'm like, no, he ain't in that percentile of player. And that's why he's gone to Galatasaray.
One thing I'll say as well is that I really like Arteta's talent ID. So if he's seen something in Balogun that he's like, nah, man, this ain't for me. This ain't for me. But yeah, just outpriced him a little bit.
This is a true comment. I do believe in what I've seen. I think he'll be better than Nketiah. However, you've got to remember this, and this is something, again, I don't know how old you are. Maybe you're older, maybe you're younger. When it comes to a squad, you do need... The reason why, for instance, if we keep either one of Fred or McTominay, I prefer McTominay to stay, is because academy players, and sometimes when they're a little bit below the standard of someone that you would want in your team, regular first team, week in, week out, they're just happy to be there and support. Sometimes you buy them, sometimes they're academy players. Man United, in our pomp under Fergie, we had people like O'Shea and Wes Brown. In the 90s, we had the likes of Jasper Blomqvist and David May, who they'd come in for the odd game and do well. They didn't think about needing to start. They were happy to be there. You can't have a squad of 25 players that all are good enough to start because half the squad's going to be unhappy. So Nketiah is probably a better player to have on your bench than Balogun because Nketiah is happy to be on the bench. So you have to get that balance right. You have to get that balance.
100 grand a week. I'm chilling.
Yeah, exactly. And he gets to exactly. But Balogun, and this is where I respect Balogun, he thinks he's good, better than that. So he wants to go and be a first team player. So,
and I think on top of what you were saying there, Terry, I think prime example for a team who's excellent at getting rid of selling the player at the right time is Man City. They've had players like Jadon Sancho, Berham Diaz, Matundo, David Brooks, Tyrese Campbell. The list goes on. But when have they ever come back to bite him in the arse?
So far, even with Sancho, he was looking very good at Dortmund, but at Man United, he hasn't done anything yet. So you think about all the players City have let go. They've got good careers, but none where people are looking at City and going, you fucked up there, boys.
Yeah, no,
you know?
They're all getting good money for him, and they're looking back. Lavia is the one we're looking at now. Will he be that player? But even now, it's will he? Can he?
Yeah. Arteta bought Trossard to cover Jesus at a false 9 in January when he was injured. He'll probably go back to him, especially when Trossard played well. It's true. Look at Arsenal before with Henry, Kanu, and Wiltord. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. As a Man United fan, Don is my favorite Chelsea fan, is what Bash says here. And Ayaz here says that Liverpool should sign Zubamendi.
Liverpool should sign any defensive midfielder at this point. I don't care who necessarily it is. I don't need a big name. I just need someone who is adept at playing the defensive midfield position, so I don't have to potentially watch Trent Alexander-Arnold at defensive midfield at Stamford Bridge.
I'm praying you do that, Tommy. No,
Wait,
I'm
listen,
praying
we
you
have
guys do
Scott
that.
McTominay, alright, Claude. Scott McTominay.
Yeah, you get McTominay.
Right, I'll take
45
anyone
million.
but Scott McTominay and Fred.
This is what I'm saying, people. Like, look at the CDM options right now. Like, who's there? Edson Alvarez, Paulinho, Lavia. You know,
You keep going on
Caicedo
about
is the
Paulinho like he
best
didn't
one.
dislocate his shoulder.
Oh yeah, he's injured, isn't it?
Oh, is that
yeah,
what
shit.
one? Oh, mad.
Is that what it is with him? Oh yeah, no, I forgot about that.
The shoulder injury,
This is
didn't
what I'm saying.
Who's
That
injured?
it's getting
Who's
peak
injured?
now.
that Paulinho fella
Paulinho's
from
injured.
Fulham. He went off
Oh,
in
he's
like
done,
Wait,
is he?
talking
He's
about
hurt.
Fulham,
the
yeah.
Mercedes.
You know, Williams just.
How
signed
about
that new
how about
contract.
Tyler Adams? How about Tyler
Tyler
Adams?
Adams.
Tyler Adams, though.
Tyler Adams is a Chelsea player. You can have Tyler
No,
Adams.
he's going
Don't
to
worry.
Villa. He might be going to Villa.
And
But,
also, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. Tyler Adams is also injured until September.
Oh, flipping out.
Jeez.
Wait, listen, yo, you talk about Fulham. You know, William signed that new contract, yeah? He's only just gonna request to leave because Saudi have offered him a new contract.
No
Wait, I saw that.
way. It's not changed at all.
Liverpool should
I actually
sign
feel
Don
that
as
Liverpool
DM,
just-
is what LJ said.
Saudi just tried to raid that
I'll do a
ball.
job. I'll do a job, man.
There we go.
Give me a little 5K a week. I'll take that.
There we go. Listen, boys, I appreciate you all coming on. My super chatters, my members, you're amazing. Please, everyone, hit the like button before you leave today. Make sure you are subscribing. More content for you tomorrow, including myself and Dom Hassam on Straight Facts. So make sure you're all tuning in for that tomorrow at around 3:30. Until next time, people, take care. Goodbye.